What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in to the Uncommon Mindset podcast. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Dean Thomas. I'll give you a brief background on who Dean is. Dean is a retired American mixed martial artist who was featured on The Ultimate Fighter 4, The Comeback. In the Ultimate Fighting Championships, Thomas is a UFC 41 Lightweight Tournament Semifinalist. He holds a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Ricardo Liborio, and some may say that he is even better than Matt Sera at Jiu-Jitsu. Currently, Dean runs two successful Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA academies in Florida. Thomas has a record of 26 wins and only 9 losses, and he holds notable victories over Jens Pulver, Matt Sera, and Clay Guida. Some of you may recognize Dean from Dana White's Looking for a Fighter, or even his own show, The Dean Diaries. What an honor it is to have you on the podcast today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I'm eating this donut on there, but these donuts have been in this office since last Friday, and I figure if I don't eat them now, no one's going to eat them. So I'm gotta finish this donut.
No worries, you're fine, you're okay. Yeah, so I just want to take it back, Dean. I just want to ask, what was your upbringing like, and like when did you get into MMA?
Well, I got into MMA before it was called MMA. Back then, it was called, no holds barred, or Vale Tudo was what the Brazilians called it, meaning anything goes. And this was back in the mid '90s. I was watching UFC 2. My sister showed me a video of it, and I was like, wow, I have to learn how to do this. So this was about 93, 94. But we didn't have access to it back then. And so we kind of had to teach ourselves. So we would buy videotapes, and I used to go to a lot of different seminars, and just training in the house, and in the yard, my front yard, we would train on the grass, and that was kind of how we all started. And I don't know, and I was a small guy too, so like being able to fight was like something that I felt like I needed to learn, because being a small guy and there's a lot of big dudes out there, I didn't want to get beat up. And that's still why I train to this day. I just don't want to get beat up in the street. I don't want to be at a bar and some dude knock me out. I don't ever want that to happen.
Yeah, no, of course. Have you ever had someone come up to you and start any like trouble with you outside of the gym?
No, not really. I had to defend myself a few times when I worked as a bouncer, but in terms of like street fights, like I've never had that happen. And I feel like the older I get, the less likely it's going to happen.
Yeah, no.
But I'm still training for it though. Like I'm still prepared. I got 30 seconds in, I give anybody hell for 30 seconds.
No, that's brilliant. Yeah. And I know that you're obviously a coach now as well, and you were coaching at American Top Team, and you're coaching at your own place now. Is that correct?
Yeah. So like in the intro, I used to have 2 academies, but I no longer do it. Since then, I was a full-time coach at American Top Team, and then I left there, and now I'm running my own small private thing where I can just kind of call my own shots and wake up when I feel like it.
I see. What was the main reason that you left? Was it because you wanted like the ownership, or what was it?
No, I wanted to be able to do my own thing. When you have a big team environment around, it's about the team, right? So, and that's cool. It's not that I'm not a team player. That's a good thing, but at times you kind of want to be responsible for yourself, and to say, all right, we lost this because of me, and I'm going to take ownership of that, or we won because of me, and I'm going to take ownership of that. But when you're on a team effort, it's like, some guy, and at the end of the day, like MMA is like an individual sport. Now, obviously there's a team element to it, but at the same time, like everybody has to be responsible for themselves. And as a coach, I like to be responsible for my work, good or bad. And on a team, it's hard to be responsible for, because you're working with fighters, but you're taking the credit for whatever happens. So I'm working with fighters, and I might not even have worked with them, but if they win, they're like, oh my God, Dean Thomas is so great. But I'm like, I didn't have anything to do with that. Or if they lose, they're like, oh man, I didn't have anything to do with that. So I wanted to be responsible for myself.
No, of course. And I know that you have a really strong team at the moment with obviously Jillian Roberts, Jose Torres. What's it like? Like, because they obviously living with you as well. What is it like having them so close to you?
It's good. Like I said, like now I have a little bit more, a little bit more of a hands-on approach to where I can accept responsibility for what they're doing. Like if if they're not getting it down, it's my fault. So like, and I have to take ownership of that. And it's sometimes, but that's what I wanted. Like that's what I signed up for. So like that's the good thing is that like I call the shots now. I'm like, hey, it's time to train. It's time to not train. But but it's also like having kids. Like it's like I'm raising them. They're a lot younger than I am. So like we have a different mentality, and sometimes I think that can cause us to butt heads at times because I'm not as much as I want to be. I'm not one of them. I'm not in my 20s. I'm in my 40s. So it's like, I have a different mindset. Sometimes I'm kind of like, all right, enough of the play. It's time to get to work. And and they're still kids in a sense. So like sometimes they want to play, and I'm like, enough of the play time. It's time to get to work. But we have a good chemistry. We make it work.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I was watching Dean Diaries. I'm up to date on all of them. It's so enjoyable to watch. In the latest one you had, you asked Mike Brown, um, does he does he like it more when he won as a fighter, or does he like it more when his fighter wins and he's the coach? So I'm going to ask you the same question. Like, is it more rewarding for you as a fighter to win or as a coach?
For me, I find it actually more rewarding as a coach
Mm-hmm.
because again, from now the perspective of now being able to teach it, because when I was doing it, I could always say, maybe it wasn't, because I believe in the technique. I believe in the process and the system and the technique. And if I can institute that to another person and have them utilize that to win, then I can say that it was the technique. And then I can recreate that in other people. When it's just me, like I've had people tell some of my fighters, oh, well, you couldn't do that. Only Dean could do that because he was a good athlete, or Dean could do that because of this. But I never thought of myself as being a good athlete. I always thought of myself as being a technician, and it was the technique. So now I can employ that through others and say, this works because it's the system.
Mm.
So when they do it, I'm enjoyed by that. Like I love that. I love to see my people win, even more so than I did. And there was a time where like when I would win fights, I would be numb to it, just kind of like, what's next? But when my fighters win, I'm like excited for them.
Like a proud dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that, you're obviously, you've played a huge role in Tyron Woodley's, success and his upbringing in MMA. What's it like working with him? And I know he's gone through like a tough situation currently, on a losing streak. What is that all like?
I mean, it's a roller coaster, but I mean, it's one that it's what the game is about. One minute you're on top and the next minute you're not. And you don't get to determine when that happens. That's the thing about this game, is that you don't determine when that happens, but it's going to happen to everybody. Like there was a time where we thought I remember watching Chuck Liddell fight Babalu thinking this guy is never going to get beat. Like who is ever going to beat him?
Mhm.
And then he gets knocked out 4 times in a row. You know what I'm saying? So like it happens to everybody that sticks around long enough.
Mhm.
Luckily for me, I didn't stick around long enough. But like, and that was because I think fighting wasn't in my heart like that. But like with guys like Tyron Woodley, fighting right now is his, he makes, a good living doing it. So, he's doing it currently. But, is it the point where it's like, man, it happens to everybody. You get a certain age and the game just catches up to you and you can't keep up with it sometimes. And like, I don't want to call his shot for him and say that that's, he can't come back from it. But I know where he's at in terms of like physically and, his maturity level, that it's hard to really compete sometimes. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, of course. And what would you recommend, like an upcoming fighter? Like myself, I train at Chris Reese's Academy in Swansea, Wales, and we have phenomenal coaches there. And I've been doing it for 2 years now. But what would you recommend for like a new beginner, an up and coming fighter?
Just keep having fun. You got to have fun with this, because like I said, when there's a time where as a fighter, it's so frustrating. It's very frustrating as a fighter. This part out, I would assume.
Hello, D?
You there?
Yeah, so sorry.
Hey.
Yeah, you cut out where you said it's frustrating, and then it just blanked out.
Okay. Yeah, so we could probably cut that. We can edit that part out, huh? So let me get back to what I was saying. Being a fighter is incredibly frustrating, and I would assume that it's like being an actor. Like I'm an actor, and it's frustrating because you want to work, and you don't get to determine when you work. And as a fighter, like, you want to fight and you want to get the fights that you want, but sometimes that doesn't happen. And so you got to have fun with this. Like, that's the most important thing, is that you got to love the game, because it's so frustrating to make a living doing this and to enjoy the business side of it, that you have to love the artistic side of it. You have to love the game in itself. And if you don't love the game, you're not going to have a successful career, because it's too frustrating. So as an up and coming fighter, just love what you're doing and do it for the love of it. And if you can make a living doing it, then you're blessed.
Yeah, no, of course. And you touched on there, obviously you've gone into acting. What made you actually do that? Is that something you've always wanted to do?
I don't know. I think it's just the next stage of my life as an artist. I like to think of myself as an artist, and I spent the first half of my life being a martial artist, and now I'm still a martial artist. I'll always forever be a martial artist, but now I'm also in the performing arts. So, it's just another form of expression, and I think that's what it is. It's just, as I've gotten older and as I've evolved as a person, it's just the easier way for me to express myself, and a lot less pain involved in performing.
Yeah. What has been your biggest achievement so far?
In terms of
In
anything?
life? Yeah, anything.
Oh, in life? I think it's just having the son that I have, to be honest with you. Like, everything, like, in terms of like fighting, I've done a lot in fights, and beaten a lot of guys. I fought a lot of guys, but again, like, it's never. I don't like to think of things as being about me. I like to think of this as something bigger to me. And the fact that I have the son that I have, and I always do videos with him, and he's so charismatic, and he's so smart, and he's so intelligent. He's such a good kid. Like, to me, like, that's the biggest thing that I'm the most proud of, is the fact that I have a son, that I was able to raise a son the way that I have. And I almost feel like I don't know if I got lucky or what I did. Like, I don't know what I did, but he's like such a good kid, good grades in school, athletic, and just a really good kid and responsible. Like, to me, I'm just like, there's nothing that I've done that could top that.
Yeah. No, definitely. No, that's amazing. And obviously, you've got a show with Dana White and Matt Sera, looking for a fighter. What's that whole experience like? Like, what's the best place that you guys have been to?
We've been to some cool places. I came on about halfway through the duration of the show, and that was like 4 years ago. But I mean, we've been to some cool places, and we've done a lot of cool things, and it's a blessing to have that experience in my life. I mean, if I could die right now and be like, I've done way more than I should have. Like, just being on that show, like, I have no bucket list, because like anything that I could think about ever wanting to do, I've done through that show and more. And going to Hawaii, like, that was a really good time. But I would have to say the best place that we've been, and the most fun I've had, is the first time when we went to Abu Dhabi and had that experience. This was before the pandemic, so we had free range of the entire country. And just being with Dana White was like, he was like the king of Abu Dhabi, and me and Matt were like the princes. We were just, just wilding out, like, doing, I don't know. It was such a good time, and it's memorable. I'll never forget it. But being on that show with those guys, they're great gentlemen, and I'm blessed to have the position I have and being on that show.
No, definitely. You guys work really well together, and like you can see how close you guys are. So it's amazing to watch that. I'm excited for the future episodes to come out. I know in the previous one you met Khabib, which must have been crazy, right?
Well, like, it's crazy because like I've been around him a lot, just in passing, but I've never had a conversation with him or spoke to him. And it just so happens that he did what everybody else does, assumes that I was Eve Edwards, like, because that's just always what everybody does. And it happened to capture it on TV, and it was probably the most notorious mistaking of Eve Edwards I've ever had. Like, it happens all the time. I mean, it's been happening for the last 20 years, to be honest with you. But it's never been as big as it has been, as it has happened, a couple of weeks ago.
It's hilarious because he was just like, "Oh yeah, you beat my teammate."
I'm like, really, who?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. What would you say to not like a fighter, what would you say to someone who's young and who wants to do something that they love? Like what advice would you give them?
Again, it's the same advice as a fighter, but again, passion is everything. All right, two things that I would tell people. Passion is everything, and improving is everything. So if you have passion, that's the fuel to continue to do what you're doing and improving on it. You must always get better because the world is moving. The world never stops turning. So if you are in the same place that you were in terms of anything, you're going backwards because everybody else is moving forward. So you must always improve. And if you don't know how to improve, it's the little things.
Yeah.
Break it down and dissect it and get better at the little things. That's how you improve on anything. So whatever it is that you want to do, I don't care whether you want to be a better chef, better basketball player, whatever it is, improve on the little things and always improve on them because everybody else is. And if you're not, you're falling behind.
Yeah, it's like when Will Smith said, if you're trying to build a wall, you don't build a wall, you start with one brick and then you just add those bricks on. And
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Just one brick at a time.
yeah, no, amazing. And you've been around some of the best of the best in the game. Who's one person that you'd say that stands out to you where it comes to like mindset or like just pushing themselves?
Um, in terms of like competition, I think the best competitor I've ever been around was Ben Askren.
Oh wow.
And yeah, which is why it doesn't surprise me that he doesn't care about boxing. This kid, and I almost think like it's a no-win situation for Ben, really. Like it's a no-win situation. But Ben is just such a great competitor. I've watched him compete so many times, and he competes better than anybody I've ever known. Like he's just like people get nervous or frustrated, but Ben never does. Like he's always in the moment in terms of competition. He may be outmatched at times, but he's never beaten in terms of like from a competitor standpoint where he felt like he had to give up. Like he never gives up. So in terms of competition, Ben Askren is by far the best competitor I've ever been around.
Wow, it's interesting. Yeah, he's good at doing trash talk and stuff like that as well, which plays a huge role, I think, when it comes to mixed martial arts. Like with Connor and people like that, they win the fights before they actually go in, right? And
yeah. Well, Connor would do that, and but I think he's struggling a little bit with that now because he hasn't found his new niche. Like he's trying to evolve as a human being, but that's ruining his fight game in a way because like he's not getting guys to make mistakes like they used to. Like he used to get guys to make a lot of mistakes, and now they're like, "Nah, we're on to you."
yeah. Would you do anything like an exhibition boxing match or anything like that? Like all these people are doing at the moment. Would you do anything like that?
I would probably do an exhibition boxing match. Yeah, I would, as long as I didn't have to train too hard for it. I would.
Against Serra.
Yeah, I would do it. Like as long as it was like friendly enough, and I didn't have to really train too hard for it. like I wouldn't care about, like, I just don't want to have to train hard. You know, I trained hard for 20 years. The last thing I ever want to do now is cut weight or struggle to train. Like, I don't want to do that. But I'll get in there and perform, because as long as I have to train for it, I'll get in there and put some gloves on. I'll throw down. Like I said, I still got 30 seconds, but I don't want to have to train hard.
Yeah, no, of course. And obviously, I know that you're a busy guy, and I won't keep you long, Dean. Yeah, I just want to ask you now. What would you like? What would you say to someone who says that I'm done with this. I want to give up right now. Like, what would you say to that person?
Well, they have to analyze why. Why do you want to give up?
Yeah.
If it's because, but again, it comes down to one of those two things. Are you improving, or did you lose your passion? And they kind of go hand in hand. Like, when you're not improving, you're not doing as well. And whenever you're doing something at a low level, it's hard to be passionate about it. So why are you giving up? So that's the thing, is that if you're improving on what you're doing so because you're passionate about it. Sometimes it might be best. Hey, listen, this ain't for you anymore. Especially if it's like causing their health. Like, some fighters need to give up because their health is on the line. So I'm like, hey man, you might have to give that up. But again, it's all about passion. Like, if you're passionate about it, you're going to keep going. But if you lose your passion, there's a reason why you lost your passion. It's probably because you're not very good at it anymore. And you're not good at it anymore because you stopped improving on the little things. So go back and improve on the little things, become good at it again, and you'll be passionate about it again.
It all fits together, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I forgot as well. I just wanted to ask, what are your goals at the moment now?
I want to create good fighters. I want to have, I want my fighters to win. I want to have a 75, 80% winning percentage. It's hard to have 100% winning percentage, but if my fighters can have a 75, 80% winning percentage, I'd be very happy with that. I want to create, somebody that holds a belt, if whether it be Shorty or Jillian or David Evans, like, I want somebody to hold a belt. And I want to act. And I also want to, like, right now I'm thinking about setting up a little space in my place where we can perform too. So like, so like we can have performances, whether they be improv shows or plays or whatever, or just open mic night or poetry or whatever. So yeah, so again, I'm an artist, so I want to be able to express myself creatively in all different areas, and like, that's really what I want to do with the rest of my life. Actually, just be able to express myself artistically for the rest of my life.
No, of course. I really think the future is bright for you, and you think that you're an old guy, but you're really not. You're still young, and you've got a lot of things ahead of you. And I'm really excited to see the new episodes of Dean Diaries, Dana White looking for a fighter, and everything that's going to come with what you're doing with coaching as well. I really think Jillian, she's definitely a big prospect, and Shorty as well. But yeah, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Dean. I really respect your time. What I'll do, guys, I'll leave Dean's social media down below if you want to go and check him out. I'll leave the YouTube channel down below as well. Go and check Dean Diaries out. But yeah, thank you so much. I really respect your time.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.